Welcome to Fantasy and Enchantment, where I describe fantasy books to my husband and see if he's enchanted. My name is Sarah.
And I'm Justin.
We're going to start with content warnings. We both swear a lot. There's going to be lots of adult stuff. Also, spoilers for the book. Today, we are covering A Curse for True Love, which is the third book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and also the last book. So we're done after this one.
Good. Thank Christ. There's too much going on in these books, and I am tired of it.
It's not nearly as bad as Crescent City.
It's not as bad as Crescent City, but it's not good.
Shut up.
The last one was really long. You guys know. You listened to the podcast. It was really long.
It could have been worse.
It could always be worse. It could always be Crescent City.
Okay. Do you need a recap?
I don't think so, because we actually didn't take a big long break in between recordings. So for the most part, I think I know where we're at. I mean, we can do it for the people. Give the people what they want.
Okay.
They want a recap.
So
Give them what they want.
I got that, Justin. So Jax and Evangeline open the arch.
Right, at the end.
The vampire Chaos killed Evangeline. So then Jax turned back time so that Evangeline wouldn't die.
Right. He did like the full Superman. He flew around the planet really fast to turn back time.
Sure.
Is that Superman 1? You probably
I don't know.
Yeah, it's the old ones.
Okay. But then opened the arch again, and Apollo had his curse broken and then took her memories. So she does not remember anything at this point.
Cool.
Or we'll get into it, but she has some memories, but nothing recent, for sure.
Okay.
So we'll start off with the description,
All right, let's do it.
and then we'll
Then you're going to show me the cover.
Oh, right. I know you like the covers.
You know how I feel about covers.
Yes. Evangeline Fox ventured to the magnificent north in search of her happy ending. And
Happy ending. Continue.
it seems as if she has it. She's married to a handsome prince and lives in a legendary castle. But Evangeline has no idea of the devastating price she's paid for this fairy tale. She doesn't know what she's lost, and her husband is determined to make sure she never finds out. But first, he must kill Jax, the Prince of Hearts.
Okay. So, sounds like a real nice fella at the end of the day here.
Yeah.
We don't really know a whole lot about him for the most part, right?
I mean, other than that, he's the prince of this place that she came to find, because like the whole reason she went to the north was to go to this engagement thing, and then she ended up marrying him.
And he beat Rocky in the first movie, but he lost in the second movie, and he gets killed in the fourth movie. Spoiler alert.
Okay. Anyway, do you want to see the cover?
Yeah, let's see the cover. What we got? It looks like a bunch of, like a dead flower bouquet.
So, I am pretty sure it's a tree.
Okay. Tree of dead flowers.
Well, that tree is a big part of the story.
Oh, great. We get trees.
Yes.
So
I have a
exciting.
feeling you might actually kind of like the tree because it's a little morbid.
Okay.
I'm not going to ruin it for you.
All right. Well, you're going to ruin it for me because we're
Yes,
about to
I mean,
talk
I'm
about it.
not right at this second. I'm not going to ruin it for
Oh,
you.
good. I'll have to wait 20 minutes for the surprise.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, strap in, kids.
Okay. So the book starts, and Evangeline is with Apollo, and the last thing she remembers is being with her dad when he died. So, and that was, I think, over a year ago at this point.
Okay. So, at the end of the last book, did everybody just kind of disperse? And they're just like, okay, let's all go home now.
We're going to get there.
Okay. All right. I
And
didn't know.
there are little breadcrumbs along the way.
Okay. I want the whole loaf.
No loaf.
Give me the loaf.
No loaf for you,
Let me
sir.
get some loaf. All right.
The fuck. All right. So, because she obviously has no idea what the fuck is going on, she asks Apollo how she got there. He says, your memories were stolen by someone who's been trying to tear us apart. She gets the feeling that she had something important to tell someone, because if you recall, at the end of the book, she had this moment of like, if I tell Jax that I love him, everything's going to be fine.
Right.
So she remembers the feeling of like needing to tell someone something, but she doesn't remember who, she doesn't remember what.
Okay.
Apollo says they need to leave the arch before he comes back and starts pulling her through the library. So this is immediately afterwards.
Okay, so it picks up right there.
The librarian sees them, and last everybody heard, Apollo was dead.
Right, so everybody thinks he gone.
So the librarian starts freaking out and saying it's a miracle, and then people come running in and start surrounding Apollo, who they thought was dead. And Apollo says, tell everyone you see that Prince Apollo died and went through hell to get back here. So he's making himself seem
super cool. He's a real badass.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy.
He says that he was poisoned by Jax, which, yeah.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
And that Jax stole his wife, which...
He's not entirely wrong. He's kind of got some motive here in his defense. I mean, I know that they're painting him to be the bad guy, but
you have no idea.
He's kind of got a little bit of motive at the time.
So Apollo's guards run off to find Jax. Evangeline is like a little afraid of Apollo.
Because he's a big black man in American flag shorts?
No, Justin. But he tells her he has to leave. So these other guards come to take her to her room. And again, she has this feeling of like, I was going to tell something important to somebody. So she's pacing in her room, and then a doctor comes in with these 2 apprentices. They start asking her questions to see what she remembers. She doesn't remember how old she is. She doesn't remember when she met Apollo. She doesn't remember the engagement. She doesn't remember the wedding. Like, she's got...
I don't remember how old I am a lot of the time either. I've got to do the math.
Well, that's an old people problem.
Yeah, that's just what happens when you get old.
Yeah.
You forget things.
After, like, 29, you know, blurs together.
Well, you're in your late 30s now.
I'll fucking kill you. I am not, for the record.
I am.
Yeah, you are.
Robbing the cradle. Got him young. Continue.
Okay. A different man walks in the room, and he's standing in the back taking notes. He hands her a card after the doctor leaves, and he's a reporter, so he just kind of snuck in the room.
I'm with the press.
Yeah. So she falls asleep after a while, and she feels someone like picking her up, and she has like a vague memory of being picked up by somebody else.
That's a weird thing to be like, oh, I remember being picked up.
Well, so there's like little moments throughout the book where she has like very quick, like, I kind of remember something like this happening before.
Like deja vu kind of things.
Yeah. Apollo sets her on a bed. She asks if they can get her memories back from the man who took them. And Apollo immediately says no, because Apollo doesn't want her to have her memories back.
Yeah.
And then he calls Jax a monster, which, I mean, fair enough. Jax has done atrocious, unforgivable things to you. And
Also, that motherfucker's always eating apples.
Yes. I truly believe you might be happier if those things stay forgotten. So he's pushing pretty hard on this. Jax did this, you don't need to remember. And also, this book, we get some POV switches. The first 2 were all from Evangeline's point of view. The next chapter is from Apollo's point of view. He's upset that no one mourned him when they thought he was dead. They moved on real fast.
They're like, yeah, well, he gone.
He really wants to be remembered for great things. So he goes to an interview with a reporter, the same one who gave Evangeline the card. Apollo wants the paper to talk about how awful Jax is until he gets caught. So he's a government official, and he's making them put out this propaganda.
Whoa. We don't know anything about the government telling the media what they should and shouldn't be reporting on, and maybe what direction in which they should lean, and maybe who they should be slandering against. Gee, I can't possibly relate to that part of the story. What a concept.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Apollo then goes to a council of the great houses, so the major noble houses in the area.
Right.
When the arch was opened, the Valors, the first rulers of this land, were inside the arch.
Right, and they were all taking naps.
Yes. The Valor King is there on the council now, but he goes by Lord Vale.
Also, I like how he just comes back and he's like, well, I guess I'm just going to be in charge of shit again.
I mean, and that's what he's used to, so what else is he going to do?
Did they ever explain why they were in there just taking a nap?
I don't remember. I guess we'll find out.
Okay. Will we? Because you don't remember.
I don't remember. Look, there's a lot of notes here.
It's a lot of shit in this book. That's what I think we started off this way. There's a lot of shit going on.
Okay. But in order to appease the Valor King, I think his name is Wolfric, Apollo names the Vales as a new great house. So he's like, I want to keep being king, but you can be like a major noble house in the area.
Right.
As long as you don't tell anybody who you really are.
You shut the fuck up and do what I say.
One of the members of the council thinks Evangeline was working with Jax, which...
She was.
Kind of, yeah. Begrudgingly at times, but yes. Another says the best way to remove suspicion is if she gets pregnant.
Put a baby in it.
And another says Apollo should just replace her. Like, just get a new one. So they are not a fan of hers.
Both legitimate options, I guess. Either knock her up or kick her to the curb. Something's got to change with this bitch, though.
We don't want her anymore. If anyone in this room really cares about the kingdom, they'll stop worrying about Evangeline's loyalty and start looking for Lord Jax. Until he's dead, no one is safe. So Apollo is like, stop worrying about Evangeline. We gotta go after Jax.
Putting up wanted posters all over town.
Yeah, actually, I think he is.
Oh.
Now we're back to Evangeline's point of view. And she has to have all these new dresses made, and all the people are coming, well, like, you're gonna be queen. You're gonna have a coronation soon. We gotta get you next for fancy. There's food brought to her. She notices a scar on her wrist in the shape of a broken heart because she never fulfilled that last kiss for Jax. One of the doctor's apprentices comes in, says she's sorry, Evangeline can't remember. But Evangeline gets the feeling that the apprentice is actually kind of relieved that Evangeline doesn't remember anything. Because again, Apollo doesn't want her to remember.
Yeah.
And Evangeline asks her if she was really framed for Apollo's murder. You were. You had to be in order to fulfill the prophecy, unfortunately. Everyone leaves, and then Apollo comes in. He wants to take her on a walk, and they pass by a wanted poster for Jax. But it's like a very vague poster. It's not, because I have to draw it, and it's something about it just doesn't seem real, I guess.
It's not a real good drawing.
Yeah. Apollo takes her to the top of a tower. Evangeline is super uncomfortable. And then bells start ringing everywhere. Fires are being lit all over the place. And Apollo says every bonfire down there is for us. Subjects from all over the magnificent north are burning words of blessing for our health and our marriage. So she's like, well, maybe I guess this isn't so bad. Maybe I don't really need those memories. And then they make out.
Being from America, it's hard to try to relate to royal families.
Yeah, I mean...
and giving a fuck.
Yeah, we don't do that here. The next day, another doctor checks her memories. And then a tutor named Madame Voss shows up and puts a book in her lap. And it says, The Greatest Love Story Ever Told. The True Unabridged History of Evangeline Fox and the Prince of Hearts. But then the title changes to Prince Apollo. So she thinks Prince of Hearts might be Apollo's nickname. But it's not.
That's not.
The tutor shows her a portrait of Apollo from Nocta Never Ending, and he's in front of a phoenix tree. And so Evangeline asks about it, and the tutor says once it's grown and in full bloom, it takes over 1,000 years to mature as the leaves slowly turn into real gold. However, if one leaf is plucked before all the leaves have changed, the entire tree goes up in flames. So big fancy tree that grows gold leaves, but if you pull the leaf too soon, it catches on fire.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
It's going to be important to the story later on.
Of course it is.
The tutor tells her that Apollo had dressed like the archer from the Ballad of the Archer and the Fox when they met. Evangeline is like really upset that like that's her favorite fairy tale and she doesn't remember why Apollo was dressed like that, and she doesn't remember meeting him at all, and she's just upset, and she decides like I need to get my memories back one way or another. But she does remember the card she got from the reporter, so she wants to go see him. So like she goes out of her room and there are guards there, and the guards say Apollo doesn't want her to leave the castle. So she asks them to take her to Apollo, and they say he's occupied. So you can't leave the castle, you can't see your husband, you have to stay in this room.
He ain't got time for you.
I'd like to see my husband, and if you tell me no or suggest that I walk through another garden, I'm going to assume you believe either that my husband can be replaced by flowers or that you're in a position to give me orders. Another guard comes up and says he'll take her to Apollo. His name is Havelock. She's met him before, but she doesn't recognize him. Apollo is meeting with someone in a cloak. And Apollo introduces Garrick of the Greenwood. He's leader of the Guild of Heroes.
Guild of Heroes. What is it, the Avengers? He's Captain America.
Sure, he's Captain America.
Iron Man and the Hulk are living in the woods.
He's looking for Jax. The whole reason he's meeting with Apollo is so that he can help look for Jax. Garrick says he needs blood to help find Jax. Her scar is a link that lets Jax find her. That's why he kept popping up all over the fucking place.
All right.
They want to use it to find him, so like a reverse thing.
Has anybody considered just putting out a basket of apples and the motherfucker will just show up?
No, but actually that's not terrible suggestion. She says she wants to think about it. But Garrick has this big ass bird on his shoulder. So he says something to the bird, and it scratches Evangeline's face.
What a shitty bird.
And then Garrick wipes off the blood on her face. So he's like, oh, whoops. Evangeline gets upset, asks if Apollo knew that was going to happen. And she says to Apollo, I don't know how much of a threat Lord Jax is, but I'm starting to see you as one. So, like, the fact that he's already dismissing her, not taking her own wishes into account.
He's not a real great.
Letting her be hurt so that.
Not a real great fiance, as it turns out.
Husband at this point.
Husband. Oh, right. They got hitched.
Yeah. Apollo tries to make her feel better, but he says she still can't leave the castle. But Lord Slaughterwood shows up a few minutes later with information about Jax. The Slaughterwoods, one of them was supposed to marry Lala in the last book.
Right. Still, that's the coolest name.
Slaughterwood. And then we're back to Apollo's point of view. Evangeline asks to come with him, but he says that's not a good idea. I hope you understand that as long as you treat me like an untrustworthy captive, I will act like one instead of like your wife. So she's getting real fucking mad at this point.
Right.
She storms out of the room, and then he goes to meet Slaughterwood, who says, oh, that engagement is no longer happening. So, I mean, we knew that wasn't going to work out.
Yeah.
And then he gives Apollo a scroll. He says, be very careful with this. Whatever you do, don't throw away the ashes. That'll come back later.
Of course it will.
Yeah.
They really signpost some stuff here.
That's called foreshadowing. And there's another name for it. I don't remember. But
Signposting.
that's how writing works.
Okay.
Then it's back to Evangeline's point of view. She reads a paper saying that Apollo left the castle in the middle of the night. So she goes outside and she asks the guards where he is. They don't know, but then they have a note from her tutor. She wants to meet at a well in the gardens. And Evangeline's like, oh, maybe she's got to tell me something secret about, like, how we met or how to get my memories back or anything. Give me anything. So Evangeline walks out to the garden. She starts running from the guards because she doesn't want to talk to this tutor with them behind her in case it's like a secret. She gets to the well, but no one is there. And then it starts raining. And then someone comes up behind her and pushes her into the well.
Oh no, somebody get Lassie to go tell Timmy where she's at.
Okay. You proud of yourself for
The
that?
fuck falls down a well.
She does.
It's not like 1950s black and white TV.
Well,
Falling down a fucking well.
well,
Stupid.
it happened, okay?
Okay.
She starts yelling for help. She can't swim.
She's gonna have a rough time in a well.
Yeah. So she's yelling for help. She tries to climb out. And then she hears a man yelling her name. And someone drops the bucket down to her. So she grabs it and then, like, they use the bucket to get her out. Her eyes are closed when she comes out. She knows that someone is holding her. Opens her eyes. And it's Jax, but she doesn't know that. And again, she remembers being held. And then the guards come up, like, running up to where she is. But Jax is gone at that point. She goes back to her room. The doctor and Apollo are coming to check on her. And she tells them that she fell in the well. She doesn't want them to know that she was pushed. The doctor gives
Also,
her...
from a guard's perspective, this bitch just ran out into the garden, took off, and fell in a well. and they're like, this is why we're supposed to keep an eye on your ass.
Just wait. Just wait. The doctor gives her a tea that tastes weird, so she dumps it out. So she's laying in bed and she hears footsteps. And Apollo is standing next to her bed. Says he wanted to check on her. She looks up at him and she sees Jax for a second. Almost like her subconscious is like replacing one for the other. And then it's Jax's point of view.
Boy, that's got to be confusing. Does it tell you whose point of view you're getting?
Yeah, because it's a new chapter every time.
But does it say, like, from Jack's perspective?
So it says, like, chapter 10, Jack's. And then it goes chapter 11, Evangeline.
Okay.
So, you know.
That seems like an unnecessary way to write a book.
Well, I think it's important to know, for this especially, Apollo's motives. Like, and also, like, how Jax feels about it. And you're not going to get that without his perspective.
But can't you... I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a better way to do that. And write a whole chapter from somebody's perspective.
No.
Whatever. I don't read.
I know that.
I read the Motley Crue autobiography, and every chapter is written by one of the other guys, so that makes sense.
Okay.
But I read that a long time ago.
Okay. Anyway.
It's one of the 3 books that I've read in my adult life.
Jax is lurking in her room after Apollo leaves. He wakes her up, and he thinks it's his fault that she lost her memories, because the whole thing with turning back time is that time will take something of equal value to you.
Right.
So he thinks this is his fault. He's glad she's not dead, but also didn't think this was going to happen. And he says he's going to teach her how to defend herself. So she asks his name, because she still doesn't know. And he says, you can call me Archer, because he is the Archer. And then it's back to Evangeline's point of view. Archer, quote unquote, tells her the guards went to investigate a threat. And she asks if they've met before. And he says no, even though that's very clearly a lie.
Yep.
They go outside. She follows him onto a little bridge. He acts like he's going to throw her over. He's like trying to scare her into defending herself, basically. But then he starts giving her tips on how to fight. And then he gives her his dagger, because he's like, you need something to keep yourself safe. And then it's Apollo's point of view. He is obsessed with making a legacy for himself because he's really upset. Nobody really cared when they thought he was dead.
Right.
The guard Havelock comes in.
Also, he wants a legacy, but he hasn't really done shit.
Yeah.
So, like, what are people going to remember you for when you didn't do anything worth remembering?
Well, yeah, that's basically his thought process right now. He's got to do something big and major to be worth remembering. But he's
Loser.
trying to figure out what exactly that should be. But again, the guard Havelock comes in and says the guards and the tutor, like, because the tutor wrote her the note, the guards were supposed to follow her. The guards and the tutor are all saying that they're innocent. They had tutor saying she never wrote that note. The guards are saying they don't know what happened. Victor and Handel are the guards. The tutor. Apollo says they're probably all working together. And then, because it's from Apollo's perspective, this is why this is important. Apollo is like thinking about it. And this is when he found out Apollo gave them the note to give to Evangeline and told them to push her in the well.
Oh, so the guards pushed her in the well.
Yes.
Right.
He wants to prove to Evangeline that she's in danger. So let me drown her.
Cool.
Yeah. And then he tells Havelock to kill the guards and torture the tutor. Because he doesn't want any word of this to get out. Because if Evangeline finds out...
Gotta cover up your corruption.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So...
Again, typical
it's not that the guards were slacking, it's that they fucking did it. And then we're back to Evangeline's point of view. She thinks the Archer might help her get her memories back. But then she gets a letter from Apollo, and he wants to have dinner. And and like a big dinner. Like a whole bunch of people are going to be there.
Imagine if I sent you a letter to let you know that I want to have dinner.
Well,
It's bananas. You can't just go knock on your wife's door and be like, hey, we're going to have dinner tonight. You got to send a formal letter.
it's very formal.
Send
guy.
it by pigeon, too.
It's just in the castle. They're all in the castle, so he's just
It's like,
someone running notes
it's
for
too
him.
much bother for me to actually go speak to my wife. Take her this letter.
Yes. But because it is going to be like a big formal dinner, Evangeline...
There's invitations.
Yes. Invitations have been sent out. She thinks that Jax might be there.
What are they
with
having?
The Archer.
What are they having for dinner? What does it say?
Not yet, but I don't know if I wrote it down.
They having like chicken? Or do they even have chickens in this weird world? Are they having
think
dragon
so.
meat or
And I don't.
fairy
They
or
don't eat the dragons. There are no fairies.
people meat? Are they eating people?
No, we've talked about that.
I like the concept. Let's get some more cannibal books. How come you don't read any cannibal books? people meat.
No.
All right. I was just curious what they're having for dinner. I'm kind of hungry.
Okay. Then we're back to Apollo's point of view. He finds Evangeline when she comes in to the dinner, and then a man comes up to him from the council and says that the guards are dead, so they have been killed. It's official. And then it's back to Evangeline's point of view. A girl walks up to her and says her name is Aurora Vale. Do you remember when they were in the Hollow? She kept saying Aurora, scratched on the walls. She found a diary. Yeah.
Right.
That's Aurora. And then meets her parents. Apollo says they are rebuilding Marywood Manor, which is a place that was destroyed. You find out that Vengeance Slaughterwood went on like a rampage against the Marywoods because he was going to marry Aurora, but then she left. She ran away before the wedding. Castor / Chaos was at the Marywood Manor when it was destroyed. So he died. So his mom used magic to bring him back, but then accidentally turned him into a vampire.
Cool.
So that's how that whole thing happened. In case you were
Also,
wondering.
big surprise, the guy named Vengeance went on a rampage.
I know.
I think if you name
Two on the nose.
name your kid Vengeance, chances are someday he's gonna lose it.
Yeah.
It's like naming your daughter some obvious stripper name. I used to know a guy who his last name was Queen, and he named his daughter Crystal. Her name was Crystal Queen. There is no way she's not dancing on a pole right now.
Okay. Aurora tells Evangeline how Marywood was destroyed. She says that her parents are really upset about it. And then Aurora is trying to be all buddy-buddy with her, and she gives her a hug, and then notices that she's got a dagger. But Evangeline lies to Apollo about where it came from, because it's a dagger she got from the archer, quote-unquote.
Archer.
Then a guard comes out to Apollo and tells him something, so he has to leave. Aurora finds Evangeline as she's trying to sneak away from the party because she wants to find the archer, quote unquote. Aurora asks if she has a secret lover. She's a nosy bitch.
Yeah.
But then the guards catch up to both of them, and Evangeline's like, I don't do anything anyway.
The new guards, because the old ones are dead.
Yes.
She got new guards.
She got new guards. She's in bed, and she hears something. And then sees that someone is standing over her bed. He covers her mouth and then pulls out a knife. But then Archer shows up, and he pulls the guy off her, asks who hired him, and he says it was anonymous. So someone has hired an assassin to go after Evangeline. So the Archer just stabs him. He's like, fuck
Fuck this guy.
Yeah. Then he tells Evangeline to be more careful. If someone labeled a bottle poison, you would drink it. Which is funny, because she did that. Also,
now there's just a dead body in her bedroom in the middle of the night.
Well, I mean, he's going to take care of it.
You gotta go throw him down the well? How do you dispose of a body in the castle?
And this is not the first person Jax has killed. He'll figure it out.
He's Italian. I will take care of it.
So she's
sleeping with the fishes.
Okay. Okay. She reaches for his hand and then gets a memory of being in the water. Because there was that part in the last book where they jumped off the cliff together.
Right.
She also remembers being pulled to shore by somebody and realizes it was Archer. She was in the water with Archer, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And then that's when he says the guards are going to come clean up. Because he also has this ability to control people. So he's just going to compel them to clean up the mess and get rid of the body.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That's a good way to get rid of a body. Make somebody else do it.
Yeah.
Call the family.
Okay. So he leaves the room, but then Evangeline starts chasing after him because she's just realized that, I did know you, asshole. Why'd you lie to me? And then we're back to Apollo's point of view. He's walking on bloody carpets, they're just soaked through with blood. The guard tells him that there was one survivor. There's been some kind of attack. There was one survivor. Apollo wants to talk to this survivor alone, and he goes in a room with a kid who looks like he's about 13 or 14. He's a Fortuna, so Jax and Evangeline went to the Fortuna house. That was the old lady. You probably don't remember any of this.
No.
No. Well, they're all dead now.
Okay.
The boy says the person who did this wasn't human. And then Apollo says, was it Jax? And the kid says, no. And then Apollo is looking around the room, and he realizes that the boy draws. So he asks him to draw something. And then Apollo says, I'm truly sorry for your loss, but soon you won't feel any pain at all.
I'm gonna kill you too.
Stabs him in the heart,
Ah!
poses him so it looks like he stabbed himself, and leaves the room. He tells the guard the boy felt so guilty for surviving his family. So, like, they're gonna go in and think that he stabbed himself.
Right, because that's the thing that you would do.
Yeah. So, Apollo is all kinds of fucked up these days. And then
He's also Italian.
okay. Why is he also Italian?
Because he's out there killing people. He's got the murders.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the kid who's dead.
No.
Okay.
No, the guy with the murders.
Apollo.
Yeah,
You've made enough Apollo Creed jokes that you should know his name by now.
that's true. Is he wearing a gold chain? That's the big Italian thing. You know why Italians wear a gold chain? So they know where to stop shaving.
Okay. All right.
How do you know if your baby's Italian? Won't take the nipple unless it's got hair on it.
Oh my god.
Why is Italy in the shape of a boot? Can't fit that much shit into a shoe. Suck it, Italians.
Are you done?
I guess so.
Okay. We're back to Evangeline's point of view. She chases Archer down the hall and finds him in front of a portrait of Apollo that's been like just straight up slashed down the middle. So there's a good chance Apollo or Jax did that, by the way.
Also foreshadowing, I assume.
Maybe. He walks up to her and she asks him to be honest. And she's like, well, I know we knew each other. Were you my guard? And he just doesn't answer. So they stand there staring at each other. She feels guilty because she's married, but like she also feels this connection to him.
She got the tingles.
She says she needs to go, but like she feels like she's making a mistake as she walks away from him. When she goes back to her room, dead body is gone,
It's a quick cleanup crew.
but Apollo is there, and she notices that he's got blood on his shoes because of the bloody
Yeah.
carpets. He kisses her, and she gets another memory of kissing Apollo for the first time, but also remembers that Archer, quote unquote, pulled her away, and then she says Archer's name. Apollo, like, steps away. She tells him she just had a memory that it was the night he proposed. But then she actually remembers the proposal. And Apollo has this look of like, oh fuck.
Oh shit, she's remembering things.
Yeah. And then we're back to Jack's point of view. He's on a balcony outside the room and he's watching Apollo and Evangeline. He's really upset about it, but he's glad she's safe. He thinks she can't have a future with him, so this is for the best. Like, she's already married to this guy. She's gonna be happy. He kills everything he touches, almost literally.
Right.
So, this is fine. He jumps down from the balcony. He hears two guards coming towards him, and they're talking about the massacre at the Fortuna house. I don't have any love for the family of House Fortuna, but no one should have their throat ripped into and their heart ripped out. Any guesses who did that?
Sounds like the vampires.
Jax thinks Castor/Chaos was responsible,
Yeah.
because Castor has the helmet off now, so he can just fuck everybody.
Has a habit of ripping out throats, too.
Yeah. So he decides to go to Marywood, and he sees Castor hanging out on a roof. Castor jumps down.
As you would if you're a vampire.
Yeah. And says to him, "You're in a disturbingly good mood for someone who just slaughtered an entire family."
Might put you in a good mood.
Jax is still angry that Castor killed Evangeline, but Castor doesn't remember that, so he can't really...
That didn't happen because time's a weird thing.
Yeah. Castor says that he talked to Aurora. Aurora told me what you want and what you're willing to exchange for it. So Jax is in the middle of something with Aurora.
Some kind of deal.
Yes. Then we go back to Evangeline's point of view. She keeps hearing about the hunt. She reads a paper about the massacre at the Fortuna house, and it says that Jax did it. And it has a drawing of Jax, because that's the thing that Apollo had that kid draw before he stabbed him in the fucking heart.
Right.
She realizes, and that's seeing this drawing for the first time is what makes her realize that, like, Jax is the archer. And then she's like, oh shit, I gotta tell Apollo he was in the castle. So she asks the guards to take her to Apollo. And they say he's at the hunt. So she asks, what is this thing that you guys keep talking about? So basically, someone dresses up as a unicorn. If they're not caught in 3 days, the person who's dressed up gets a knighthood and some gold. But if they are caught, the person who catches them gets the knighthood and the gold.
Okay.
And it's in the cursed forest. So
Why is the forest cursed?
Because people go in and don't come out.
Okay, so it's like that suicide forest in Japan.
Yeah. There was a spell cast to make it always rain on the walk there so that people wouldn't want to fucking go there.
Why do they dress him as a unicorn?
It's based on like a time when there were unicorns there.
So they're not bronies
No.
or furries.
No.
Just assumed it was some kind of fetish thing.
It's not a fetish, Justin.
Furries.
So Evangeline was like, okay, we're going to go to this hunt. I got to talk to Apollo. But then on the way there, Aurora comes up to Evangeline and offers to take her to Apollo's tent. One of the lords from the council comes up and says that he'll take her. But she feels really weird about this council person, so she goes with Aurora. She doesn't really trust either one of them, but she's like, Aurora seems not as bad.
Lesser of two evils.
Yeah. So she has one of the guards go with Aurora and one go with her and the Lord, because she like waffles back and forth for a second. He takes her, the Lord, to the edge of the camp, grabs her wrist, takes out a knife, and stabs the guard. And then he says she has to pay for what she did to Petra. Do you remember who Petra is?
Nope.
The person that Evangeline killed in the last book. She was the first key, quote unquote. Petra tried to kill Evangeline.
Right.
I mean, Evangeline did kill her, but she doesn't remember any of that. So he, Lord person, lifts her in the air. She grabs the dagger in her belt, cuts his arm, and runs off. And then it's Apollo's point of view. He asks the guard where Evangeline is. The guard says she's with this Lord. And then a kid runs in and says he saw a man trying to kill Evangeline. She ran into the cursed forest. So she's in this place that nobody ever comes out of.
Cool.
And then it's Evangeline's point of view. She runs through a bunch of fog, and there are a bunch of little stores up here. And as she realizes it's the street her dad's store was on, so she goes inside the store. She realizes she's seeing the memory of her 12th birthday. She starts yelling for her parents, and like she can hear their voices, but she can't find them. There's a man there, just standing there, who apologizes to her, and he says, "You knew me as Chaos, I'm your friend." Except for that time he killed you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oopsies.
He says he's there because Jax needs her help. He's about to make a horrible decision, and you need to change his mind before it's too late to save him. And then Jax shows up and tells Chaos to get the fuck away from her because he killed her.
Right.
And pulls out a sword and stabs him. And then it's
But
Jax.
he's a vampire, so he'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he will be fine. And then it's Jack's point of view. Evangeline throws herself on him, starts hitting him, says Chaos. But he's like, Chaos is going to be fine. He's going to come back to life. So he flips him over. And he goes, I am a monster, but whether you remember or not, I'm your monster. But he's convinced that if she'll die if he sticks around. So he gets up and he ties their hands together. And then it's back to Evangeline's point of view. She's like pulling on the rope, and then she realizes they're inside an inn, and she sees a clock with meals on it instead of times.
That was in the last book.
Yes.
Yeah.
You remembered something.
I remember the thing.
I'm so proud of you.
Mostly because it's weird that there's food instead of numbers on a clock.
Well,
And I never really addressed a reason for that.
it's just part of the whimsy of this little cottage that they're in, is that, like...
What time is it? Oh, cheeseburger.
It's not like that. It's
Half
like...
past the pizza.
So there's one that's very obviously a breakfast meal.
Okay.
And one that's very obviously a lunch meal.
Quarter to potato salad.
So it's like instead of watching the time, you're just marking the meals. Because that's
Got it.
the only thing that's really important.
Okay. So we shouldn't take our clock here and just put pictures of food all around it.
I mean, our daughter might think that's pretty
She
funny.
would probably think it's funny. My dad would hate it. My dad, whenever he comes visit, he's the only one who ever looks at this fucking clock. Most of the time, the battery dies or the time's wrong, and he insists on fixing it immediately. So if we just put a bunch of little pictures of food up there, he'd get
Gonna drive him nuts.
he'd get real frustrated next time he's here.
Yeah, he would. They argue about her memories because he's like, why don't you have your memories back yet? And she's like, well, I'm trying to get them back. I don't know how to get them back. And he says, I've seen what you're willing to do, how far you were willing to go. You haven't even come close to that now. So he's basically like, you're not even trying hard enough. He puts his forehead on hers and like begs her to remember. But then nothing happens. So they start running off. She asks where they're going. And she says that the Lord tried to kill her because of Petra. He says Petra was this Lord's lover and she died recently. So that's why he's upset about it.
Right. Little does she know she's the one who killed her.
Yeah. She hears a bird and sees it above them. And it's the guild leader's bird, the one that scratched her.
Scratched her on the face.
But she won't let Jax kill the bird. Because she's like, it's not his fault. His owner is awful.
I mean, it kind of is. It's a bad bird. I assume that bird's up to no good.
Probably, yeah. They make it through the fog and back out into the rain. She's hungry and exhausted. They find an inn. Do you remember what a trope is?
Shit that keeps happening.
So it's a common element that gets repeated in a lot of stories.
Yeah,
This is a big one. It's got one bed. The inn has one available bed.
of course it does.
And then it's back to Apollo's point of view. He decided not to go into the forest after Evangeline. I guess he just didn't think it was worth it. Even though
Well, fucker.
that's your wife.
I ain't getting stuck in there.
Okay.
Nobody comes back out anyway, so not his problem anymore.
Well, we'll be soon. Lord and Lady Vale, who are the Valors, come to see him. He tells them that his wife is missing, and then he pulls out the scroll that Slaughterwood gave him. This scroll contains a long-lost tale about a tree of which there is only one, the Tree of Souls. So the tree on the cover of the book.
Right.
The branches of the tree have blood. Anyone who drinks that blood becomes immortal.
Okay.
Lord Vale planted the tree. He says it's evil and tells Apollo he's gonna make a really poor choice.
Why would you plant an evil tree?
And he describes it later.
What?
He didn't know it was evil when he planted it.
Okay.
Evangeline is an innocent and Lord Jax is an immortal with immortal friends. I'll never beat him and save my wife as long as I'm merely human. So Apollo is convinced he's got to find this tree in order to quote-unquote save Evangeline.
Right.
And then Honora, who is the queen, Lady Vale, whatever, she says, maybe you should be looking for your wife then, if you're that worried about her.
No. She's in the forest. I left her there.
Go search for your princess, and if you value your life, forget about the Tree of Souls.
Also, wouldn't she be the queen, not the princess?
They haven't been coronated yet, so
Okay.
not official.
I think it's...
That's how it works here.
Disagree.
Okay,
Wrong.
shut up. They're back to Evangeline's point of view. She feels kind of delirious. Jax tells her not to remove her hood because, like, he doesn't want anyone to recognize her because Apollo's probably put the word out by now. They go inside the inn. He tells the owner he needs a room for him and his new bride. And then he carries her up the stairs and sets her on the bed. And he pulls out a little vial. He starts saying goodbye. And she's like, no, motherfucker. And she knocks the vial out of his hand. But some of the dust gets on her face and on Jax. He tries to leave, but she grabs him. She says she knows that she knows him. And then, like, again, he cries blood, so he's getting, like, blood tears in his eyes. She starts taking off his coat. He takes hers off. She starts taking his shirt off. And then she finds a note in his pocket. And she recognizes her own handwriting. It's the note she wrote to herself at the beginning of the second book, telling her not to trust Jax and that he's awful. And this little note triggers everything. So all of a sudden, she's got all of her memories.
She remembers
back.
it all.
She doesn't really remember what was in the arch, but she remembers arguing with Jax after the arch was opened. And then She remembers Apollo taking her memories. And she's been in a daze this whole time while her memories have been coming back. She comes to, and Jax is fucking gone. But then she notices she's got a cuff on her arm. So she's like, well, Jax probably put that there, but she has no idea what it is. She gets on her coat and she runs out of the inn.
And the innkeeper's like, these guys just showed up for like 20 minutes and now they both left.
She sees blood on the door and in the hallway.
Also bad innkeepers because there's blood all over the place and they didn't even clean it up.
3 people are lying on the floor dead.
Oh,
She realizes a vampire did it.
of course.
And she runs out to find Jax. So it's not that the innkeeper is also dead.
Okay.
For the record. He's not bad at his job.
Well,
He did.
seems like bad housekeeping, but I guess if he's dead,
What was he supposed to do?
yeah, well, you don't have to pay for the room anymore.
Nope, I guess you don't.
I hope they didn't keep their credit card to cover the incidentals. Probably get charged for some of that.
And then Garrick, the guild leader, walks up to her, grabs her arm, and she says she doesn't need to be rescued and orders him to release her because, like, she outranks him. So, let me go. He says, sorry, princess, but you're coming with me and my men. She says it's not safe in the inn. He says that she's safe with him. She says she feels like a captive. Which, I mean, yeah. And then he drags her back in. And that's when he sees the bodies. So he tells his men to look for other bodies. One of them says Jax must have done it. And Evangeline immediately, because she's got all her memories back at this point, she immediately says that wasn't Jax. And then Apollo comes in right as she's saying this.
Great timing he's got.
But she's also just remembered that Apollo took her memories. So she realizes he's behind her, spins around, slaps him in the face. But then she's like trying to save face because she's like, I don't want him to know that I've got my memories back or he's just going to take them again.
Yeah. That's just a thing he can do.
We'll find out more later.
God damn it. How long is this fucking book again? Just keeps going.
Oh my god, Justin, you'll be fine. So, like, in order to save face, she's like, oh, I'm sorry, you just really scared me. So, she tells him the ward, that the one who tried to kill her, killed a guard, and then tried to kill her. So he hugs her, and he says they need to find Jax before he kills again. And again, Evangeline is like, Jax didn't do this. When she says that, she feels him tense up. And then she's like, well, it was obviously a vampire. You guys are dumb. She saw a vampire in the cursed forest. She did. Chaos was right there.
Yeah. Doing vampire stuff.
Apollo says that he believes her and then tells the guild to look for the imposter, quote unquote, Lucian. Because remember, Lucian was pretending to be the heir while Apollo was dead, not dead.
Yeah.
She tells Apollo that people called the imposter young and handsome.
He's dreamy.
I mean, she was in love with him, so. The one she saw was monstrous. Apollo, like, talks her down. And he's like, are you sure that's what you saw?
You don't know what you're talking about. You're just a woman.
Basically, yeah. So she gets in a carriage with Apollo. She's, like, making plans. She's like, I'm going to sneak out of the castle to find Jax. But then she turns and realizes that Apollo is staring at her, like, hardcore. And he says they're going to Marywood Village. So they go to their fancy tent. And Aurora shows up. She says she's glad Evangeline is safe. Evangeline says she wants to help build, because the Vales have to rebuild Marywood, like the whole city, because it was destroyed. So they're making this big party out of it, kind of. And Evangeline's, well, I want to help build too.
Big construction party.
Yeah, basically. And Apollo laughs at her like an asshole.
Says, you don't know how to build things. You don't even know how hammers work.
And then Aurora laughs at him. Aurora says, do you fear your wife is so fragile that she might hurt herself if she swings a hammer? She gets the sense that Apollo is afraid of Aurora. And then she sees Aurora slip him a note. So now it's Apollo's point of view. And then he's remembering meeting Aurora when he was cursed. She gave him an elixir to erase Evangeline's memories so they could, quote unquote, rewrite a new story. So Aurora gave him the thing that let him take her memories.
Right.
So it's not a thing he can do whenever. He and Evangeline go into their tent. he's watching her really closely because he can tell something is off. He says that they're sharing a tent so he can protect her. So he like comes up to hug her, and then he feels her get really tense. And he says, I thought you were over this nonsense about not acting like my wife. So he starts to hold her tighter, like really tight.
That's the best way to handle those kinds of situations. You know, if somebody doesn't want to be hugged, hold them tighter. That's definitely the way to go.
But then he gets this really sudden, intense pain. It's bad enough that he almost blacks out. Evangeline is like, oh my God, are you okay? And then he sees the cuff on her wrist, recognize it as a cuff of protection. He was hurt because he was trying to hurt her. He runs out of the tent and reads the note that Aurora gave him, and it says, meet me at the border of the Marywood and the road that leads to the cursed forest at sunset. So then he goes to meet Aurora and asks if she has more of that elixir, because he's like, I need to make sure he never gets...
This bitch is remembering stuff. We gotta put a stop to it.
Yeah. And Aurora says, do you want to keep asking silly questions, Prince, or would you like to become the sort of man your wife will never dare to think about leaving? So Aurora is clearly feeding on his insecurities here.
Yeah. Your dick's small.
Basically.
You should probably drive a really big truck with like lifted tires and truck nuts on the back.
Can't forget the truck nuts.
That basically says, look how tiny my penis is, but I got this big truck.
Yeah, he definitely has a real big truck with some truck nuts.
For sure.
Yeah. And then it's Evangeline's point of view. She's trying to figure out what this cuff is, and realizes that Jax must not have used the stones to go back to Donatella, because now that she's got her memories back, she still obviously remembers meeting Jax, so that means it still happened. And she thinks about getting out of the tent when she hears a voice. And it's Lala. Lala's there dressed like a guard. And she gets really confused because Evangeline's all excited to see her. And then she's like, I thought you lost your memories. Evangeline is like, no, I did, but I just got them back. And
I remember shit now.
yeah. She tells Lala that Apollo took her memories, and he's been framing Jax for murder. I can't stand the sight of him or the sound of his voice, and I want to get out of here before he returns, so I never have to see him again. Evangeline thinks that she is Jax's true love, and so it won't kill her if she kisses Jax.
That's a gamble.
That is a gamble for sure. And Lala is like, that's a terrible idea, you're gonna die.
Lala, who's been engaged a million times, is like, you're making bad romantic decisions.
Yes. Pot meet kettle. Anyway, but Evangeline is like, no, it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna believe everything's gonna work out. She comes up with an escape plan. She wants to leave when the guards change, when they do like the rotation. But she's gonna dress like someone else. First step is to hide her hair because she's got that pink hair and it's
Right.
very easy to spot. So she makes a run for it. Her and Lala will meet up at a spring near Marywood Forest. She's checking the map Lala made for her when Jax sneaks up on her. He has
An apple.
an apple, a
Of
white
course
apple.
he's got an apple. Motherfucker's always eating apples.
And she notices that something seems off about him. She tells him that she remembers everything, and he's like, well, it doesn't matter. And then he just drops the apple. Then Chaos comes in and tells her to step away from Jax. Jax starts leaning in to kiss her, and then doubles over in pain because he was trying to kiss her to hurt her, and that's what the cuff does, is it protects her from that kind of stuff. That's when Chaos picks up Evangeline and runs. And then it's back to Apollo's point of view. He's following Aurora to the cursed forest. She's going to take him to the Tree of Souls. But in exchange for that, she wants him to stop hunting Jax. She says, swear in blood on your life never to harm Jax. She says not to worry about Jax winning back Evangeline. She's taken care of it. Then they find a hidden arch. Aurora opens it and come to a big tree that has a heartbeat. Like it's literally thump, 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 thump. Yeah.
Okay. Because that's what trees do.
Well, that's what this tree does. There's also all these faces carved into it. And then Lord Vale shows up. And Aurora, who's his daughter, he looks at her and he was like, I'm going to deal with you later.
You're grounded.
Basically. And then he tells Apollo he'll give him one more warning. If Apollo does the thing with the tree to make himself immortal, you would lose the life of the one you love the most. So, you can't use the tree without losing something. And then it's Evangeline's point of view. Chaos brought her to the spring, tells her that the cuff was a gift from Vengeance Slaughterwood to his sister Aurora, and Jax bargained with Aurora to get the cuff. So Jax made this deal with Aurora in order to get the cuff, but he traded his heart for it. Not his literal heart. The book talks about having like an actual literal beating heart and then like a metaphorical heart where you have emotions and love and all this stuff.
So he's a sociopath now.
Yes, basically.
Okay, I can relate.
I know you can. Aurora wants Jax's heart because she's in love with him. She's been in love with him for a long time. Chaos tells her she has to get his heart back. It's somewhere in the hollow. And then Lala shows up. And they're like, okay, let's go figure this out. And then as Apollo's point of view, he comes back to the tent and it's empty. And he can tell that Evangeline wasn't like dragged out of there kicking and screaming. So she probably has her memories back. He tells his guards to find her by whatever means necessary. And it's Evangeline's point of view. Her and Lala go to the hollow. She uses her blood to open the door.
Like she does.
They start just throwing shit off of the shelves. She finds Aurora's spellbook. It's also a journal. This is when she finds out that Aurora put the original Archer curse on Jax. So Aurora is a cunt.
Okay.
They go back to Marywood to find Aurora, and a guy who runs an apple cart gives Evangeline a note from Jax. Jax probably stopped for an apple and was like, here.
Yeah, what a surprise. Apple cart, ooh.
Oh, by the way, you want to give her this note? The note just says, do not look for me. They see a trail of flower petals, and they're like, Aurora's probably at the end of that. She's probably trying to lure one of us. At the end of the trail, there's a dead fox with another note. A little fox for my little fox. I won't warn you again. So again, Jax is leaving these little notes like, don't come looking for me. I'm going to hurt you.
I'm going to leave a trail of flower petals, though, but don't look for me.
Well, so they think that Aurora left the trail purposely so that Evangeline would find the note. Whereas
Right.
Jax is just leaving notes along the way in case she happens to stumble in the right direction. Aurora comes out of a hidden door, and she's like, why does Jax like you? And she says Jax came to get her his heart and then knocked her out in the process, so she doesn't know where Jax is now. And then Lala's like, I think I know where he went. Says the only way to destroy a second heart is with Phoenix tree fire. The tree that bursts into flames.
Right.
Evangeline remembers seeing the tree at Nocta Neverending, way back in the first book. So Aurora says she put another spell on Jax. Because of the story curse, no one was ever able to say exactly what Jax's curse was. It's been said for a long time that, like, everyone Jax kisses will die unless they're his true love. But turns out it's actually only a girl who will never love him can survive his kiss. So it's been backwards the whole time.
Okay.
But that means that Evangeline is almost definitely not going to survive it. Because it's if you're not going to love him, you survive it, and she's already in love with him.
But it's a curse, so it doesn't have to stay, right?
I mean, there's ways of breaking curses. We'll get to that.
Why's it gotta be so complicated?
Why do you gotta be so complicated?
Stupid.
Okay. Evangeline uses an arch to get to the Phoenix tree. Jax isn't there yet, but then he shows up with a jar in his hand. His heart, quote unquote, is inside the jar.
Okay.
She yells at him and goes lunging for the jar. He holds her back by the throat, but she notices that the cup isn't hurting him, so he's not like holding her back to try to hurt him. He's not trying to hurt her. He's just trying to hold her back. She says he is hurting her, but not physically. He says they don't get a happily ever after. She tells him she loves him. Tell me you won't set fire to your heart and I'll let you go. And this is when he tells her that he watched her die. And he tells her what chaos did and that he turned back time. And then he's like, that's why you lost your memories, because I fucked with time. And she's like, no, Apollo did that. Apollo took my memories. And then he's like, well, it doesn't matter anyway. And then she's like, you know what, fuck it. And then she kisses him. And Jack says, you shouldn't have done that. But then he drops the jar and it breaks. She starts to feel really lightheaded and collapses. Opens her eyes. Jack says, crying blood again. because he thought she was dying. And she's like, no, I just forgot to breathe.
No, I just, my pants were just a little damp, so I passed out.
Pretty sure she's in a dress, but
Whatever.
yeah.
She's got pantaloons under that dress.
So she has kissed Jax and survived.
Right.
And then,
Now, if this were a different one of your books, they would immediately just fuck right here in front of the tree.
it's possible. Yeah.
That would definitely happen.
Okay. Jax is sitting with his back to the tree. Evangeline is sitting with him, and then Apollo comes in. So they stand up. And Apollo is so mad that they found each other again. They pulls a leaf off the tree. And then the whole thing
Turns fire,
bursts into flames.
like it does.
Jax shoves Evangeline away before the tree catches on fire, so at least she's okay. Evangeline is yelling for him, but Apollo drags her away, says that he's trying to save her. Sure you were. And then it's Apollo's point of view. Evangeline is screaming and hitting him. He's in pain because he's hurting her and she's got the cuff on, so he
Right.
drops her. She tries to crawl away, but then he puts shackles on her hands and feet. He says, "Don't worry, my sweet. Soon enough, this will all be over." And it's Jack's point of view. Oh, look, we found the end. All he can see is smoke. He hears someone yelling for help. And he finds Aurora just standing next to a tree. So he grabs her by the throat. He's real fucking mad at this point. Asks where Evangeline is. And she's like, "I don't understand why you picked Evangeline." And he's like, "Are you really that petty?" And she basically says yes. And then he goes, "You wonder why I don't like you." Burn.
She's kind of a bitch.
Yeah, she's the worst. She says Apollo took Evangeline to the Tree of Souls. And then it's Evangeline's point of view. She's trying to scrape herself to, like, get some blood out so she can open the cuffs because she's a gay. So if she can bleed, she might be able to get out. Apollo is carrying her over his shoulder. And that's when she sees the tree for the first time.
That's always a good way to carry your wife. Is just throw her over your shoulder.
Yeah, please don't do that. Apollo says, "I can't keep you safe as a mere human, but I can't have you and be more. This is the hardest choice I've ever had to make. You're the love of my life, Evangeline, and I will miss you desperately." So he thinks the only way he's going to become immortal is if he drinks from this tree, and because the tree is going to take what he likes, what he loves
Yeah.
most, who he loves most, it's going to take Evangeline.
Right.
It's back to Jack's point of view. He sees Evangeline shackled in front of the tree. He runs, starts punching Apollo in the face, says he's going to kill him, and then there's all these hands that start pulling him away. It's Castor's brothers. Wulfric, the Valor King, is also there. He starts talking to Apollo and tells Jax that, like, "I'm sorry, I can't help Evangeline. This has to happen." And says helping Apollo is the right thing to do right now. Questionable.
Okay.
And then, like, but Evangeline is crying. She's like, I'm hurt. I don't know what's happening. This is crazy. Then it's back to Evangeline's point of view. Jax apologizes to her. Apollo cuts a tree branch, starts drinking from it. And then he starts to heal, says he feels like a god. But then the ground starts shaking. Wulfric says he tried to warn Apollo. Apollo falls over. And Apollo says, "You told me it would take the life of the person I love the most." Who do you think it's taking?
Him, because he loves himself the most.
Yeah, it is. It's taking you. So roots come out from the ground, start dragging Apollo toward the tree. The trunk splits open, swallows him, and then there's a new face on the tree. So
Oh.
those face carvings were other people who had
Right.
done the same thing. Castor's brothers let Jax go. He starts beating the shit out of him. Evangeline gets the shackles off and stops the fight. Wulfric says he's sorry for putting Evangeline in that position. His family will now be the rulers again. Just going to come back as the Valors. Everything's
Yeah.
going to go back to the way it was. Jax and Evangeline start walking away, and she asks him why he eats so many apples. Jax says, "It doesn't matter. I don't need them anymore." And that's the end of the book.
So you never actually find out why he's eating the apples.
So there is online, like,
Fan theories.
well, I think it's been confirmed by the author, actually. So, because Jax is a fate, and because his thing is, like, you kiss somebody and kill them, he eats the apples as a way to combat the urge to kiss people.
That doesn't make any sense.
But what I want to know is why you think the curse was broken. Why were Evangeline and Jax able to kiss in the first place? Because I have a theory.
I don't think I understand when the curse was actually something different. It didn't make any sense to me anyway. So, or maybe the curse was never there at all, or the apples were poison.
No, the curse was definitely there because he has kissed other people, like tons of other people at this point, and they have all, with two exceptions at this point, the princess and Evangeline, everybody else has died.
Fuck, I don't know.
So, back in the first book, Luke bites Jax, and then Jax kind of temporarily becomes a vampire.
Yeah.
Vampire venom can break curses. So that's what I think happened. And Jax just didn't even think about it because he's been living like that for so long it wouldn't have even occurred to him.
Well, and then also she got bit too, and she became, so they technically both had a little bit of vampire in them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's a bunch of silly nonsense is what it is.
You're a bunch of silly nonsense. But we did it. We covered another series.
Man, I'm glad it's done. I hope the next one's not as complicated and there's not as many characters.
So the next series we're getting into it's called Folk of the Air. The first one is The Cruel Prince.
Okay.
And it's one of my favorite series.
Is it full of nonsense and
Tread carefully.
a ton of characters?
I'll kill you.
Oh man, I'm gonna be in trouble because I'm probably gonna be an asshole.
Like you do. What do you think I rated this one?
You probably gave it a 4.
Yeah.
You give everything a 4 or a 3.
Okay. All right. Follow us on Facebook and TikTok, FAE Podcast. Comment, subscribe, suggest us to other people who might think Justin is funny.
I'm hilarious.
Yeah, sure. And we will see you next time.
Bye.